Testing. Hello, hello. Okay. Hi, I'm Brett Bonnell, corporate attorney and partner at Cole Freeman Allen. We represent startups to middle market companies in AI, Web3, software, SaaS, etc., and the investors who invest in them, including tier one VCs and the VCs that run those. I've been a founder before, excited to be here. I think there's a lot of great energy in crypto and AI, and we're going to talk about some of that. It's a lot of positive momentum, which is a nice, I think, change from the past couple of years. So, thanks for having me.
Thanks. Hi guys, my name is Alex. So I actually just graduated last year from UIC, computer science degree. I'm currently working full-time in Cisco as a software engineer. But I'm currently, in my free time participating in Boston AI project to learn more about Web3 and the fusion of AI as well. So good to be here and listen to valuable insight from other amazing folks here.
Hi everyone, my name is Matt. I am ecosystem lead at Zeta Chain. Zeta Chain's a layer 1 blockchain with interoperability built into it. What does that mean? It just means that when you build on Zeta Chain, you're actually deployed on all the different chains that we are connected with. So we're connected with all the major EVMs, Ethereum, Base, Polygon, whatever. But then we're also connected with the native connection to Bitcoin, Solana, Ton, Sui. So when you deploy, you can actually interact with any protocol that's on those chains interactively, natively. We're really excited for the AI revolution. We think that's got a lot of potential with interconnectivity with all the different chains.
Hi everyone, I'm Justin. I'm the core contributor of Sparsity. Previously, I've worked in a number of Google, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Snapchat, building for 1.5 billion users. And I've also analyzed the 300 DeFi attacks, studied theoretical computer science at MIT. So we are building Sparsity. I like to think about Sparsity as a new kind of building material for people to build applications. If you can think about cloud and blockchain as two distinct type of construction materials, you can use them to build drastically different software. The blockchain software is very globalized and decentralized, but it's kind of weak in terms of compute power. And the cloud is very powerful, efficient, but it's centralized. So we want to put these two together into kind of alloy construction material that has the benefit of both. It's as decentralized as the blockchain, but also as efficient as the cloud. And using this material, people will be able to build applications that people have never seen before, like a really high-speed on-chain private DEX that is also decentralized, or of course verified AI and on-chain entertainment, etc. I'd love to dive into more details.
Thanks. My name is Jay. I'm from Aave.ai. So Aave.ai is a decentralized exchange, and also we are leading on-chain data providers for those big names like Solana, Binance Wallet, OKX. So if you want to build some AI knowledge into their website, into their wallets, they have the data, and we provide this data.
Great, thank you guys. It sounds like we have a great variety of backgrounds as well as sectors that each of you are building in. So yeah, without further ado, let's get this thing started. I think the first question I'd like to ask is, I think a very commonly asked question, right? And that is, how do AI and Web3 complement each other, or how do they conflict each other? Maybe take 10 seconds to think about it, and if anyone has any immediate thoughts, just feel free to get started.
So to me, AI and blockchains are extremely complementary. When I think of blockchain is something that is continuously going on 24/7 nonstop. And an AI agent, or AI in general, is something that does not need to sleep, can think for you, can act for you. And so when you have AI and blockchain, to me, the immediate one that I think of is DeFi and AI, or DeF AI. You have AI agents that can be out there looking to maximize yield across the DeFi space and making sure that it's within your risk parameters. So you don't even have to think about it. You are constantly getting the best yield out there.
Yeah, I can go next. So, in my opinion, I think there are three most important things for AI. One is data, the second is computing power, the third one I will say the user case. I think Web3 or like blockchain can contribute to three of them. The first one is data. Decentralized ideas or Web3 can enable every user to share and control their data for AI training. So that's the data part. And I also know some AI model trainings, they will record or store their data on the blockchain. So in that case, it's more transparent. They can track how they train those AI models, the AI model revisions, so they can do the fine-tuning later. And also the last one is definitely user case. We integrate AI capabilities, the AI agent into those D apps. Definitely will make those D apps more, I will say, user-friendly, intuitive, easy on board. So I think it's definitely, complement each other.
Yeah, I think in my opinion is that there are two ways to combine AI and Web3. One is apply AI to Web3, the other is apply Web3 to AI. So apply AI to Web3 is totally makes sense because AI can be applied to anything. So that, I think, no question about that. So I'm mostly talk about my understanding about where can we apply Web3 to AI. My understanding is there are three things. One is, I would say these are three things that are strikingly missing in Web2. The first thing is verification. The second thing is user data ownership. The third one, I think, is just some incentive engineering primitives. So let me unpack a little bit. The first verification, what I mean is that in Web2, the security is all about authentication and authorization. You want to make sure, for example, I'm talking to the real Facebook, and I know exactly what data Facebook can get from me. But once that connection is established, we blindly trust everything Facebook says or does. We don't really verify what's behind the scene. So that is a very core technical and culturally important component in Web3 that is missing in Web2. I think that can be applied to Web2 to make the Web2 have more integrity. The second thing I think is very kind of missing in Web2 is the user data ownership. As we know that Web2 companies, their deepest moat is the user data. They all feed on user data. The user data belongs to the company in the term of services. So those companies is not gonna let the user own their own data, and that's very painful. For example, my data lives on Google, on Telegram, on Facebook, and it's very hard for me to put all this data together to let my AI study them, just have this holistic picture of my thoughts. And that is fundamentally difficult because my data was owned by different companies. And this is another thing I think Web3 can come in to really solve. And I think this will be one of the biggest transformations we've ever seen in terms of user data. The third one I will touch very briefly is I think Web3 have some really powerful incentive engineering primitives that is missing in Web2. So I think we can use those to engineer very viral or quick go-to-market or other kind of community building that is currently not possible in Web2.
I mean, actually, I was just going to pivot off of that and ask kind of a follow-up question, right? So you talked about, Web2's main pain points, right, with data, with user-owned data, or with a lack of user-owned data, right? But the thing is, a lot of Web2 users, they're aware of the fact that their data is being taken advantage of. However, they lack the capability of actually doing anything about it, right? So what can Web3 infrastructures or Web3 projects do in order to actually provide them with those capabilities and maybe even educate them in actually moving over to that?
That's a great question. So I think this is early, but I will just provide my early thoughts. So as a user, I know my data is owned by Facebook, all these companies. So that has been years, that's like status. But I just recently started to feel the pain about it because I find myself constantly copy-pasting between Telegram and the OpenAI, right? ChatGPT. I want ChatGPT to help me draft a message. So I need to copy-paste between them, and these people probably also send me emails, so I need to copy-paste between many different platforms. I find it very painful, and it's just I talk to many other people, they feel the same thing. This seems to be something that resonates with everyone. And also privacy concern as well. A lot of people don't want to talk to ChatGPT, and also enterprise as well. So now let's imagine that I actually own my data. Where do you want to put it, right? Where do you want to do the computation? Do you want to compute that on your laptop? If so, then it's pretty hard to use from your phone. It's kind of like that there's no place that I can actually put my entire data, the extension of my brain, almost like my digital immortality, somewhere that is safe, neutral, predictably neutral, so that I can full control. I can decide who can see it, I can decide who can monetize it, right? And I think there's obviously blockchain is the best place to put those data. I want to put all of my data extension of my brain on blockchain. I know that today's blockchain is not able to do that, but with technical innovation, I believe we can go there. And I think that seems to be the obvious and only place I can see that's to do it.
So I've been in the blockchain space for pushing 6 years now. I'm not quite OG, but I feel like it's starting to get old. And the person who brought me on to my first job actually left 6 months after. And the company that she went with to join was a data storage company. They were going to make sure that people could retain their rights and offer it to databases to protect users and making sure that they're getting value from their data, just like we're talking about. 5.5 years later, we're still talking about the same thing. And I think the problem is data storage, especially on blockchain, is extremely complicated. There's a reason why even NFTs prefer to use IPFS rather than just store everything on blockchains. Proof of work may have made things a lot more intensive when you had extremely long blockchains and bigger blocks. With some of the different consensus layers, things have changed a little bit, but we're still at that same challenge of the more data you put in the blocks, the longer that blockchain gets, the more complicated it becomes.
Yeah, totally, I completely agree. I think that's also partly why we're doing Sparsity, to bridge the gap between cloud and blockchain. And I want to add two things to what you said. I totally agree. One is I believe that the fundamental bottleneck is on-chain compute, not storage, because I believe that storage is a much easier problem than compute. You just need to commit the hash on chain, then you have integrity, you store in multiple places, you have availability, and I think there's another one encrypted, you have privacy. So those three things are relatively easy to implement, but the compute is much harder. Right now, the state of art is zero knowledge proof. It's still so slow. In other words, once I have this encrypted data on the blockchain, now I want to run a large language model on it. That part is really hard. Run it while maintaining all this decentralization, critical neutrality. The other thing I want to add is that if you think about blockchain, Bitcoin itself is really complicated technology, right? So why it grow? Because the problem it solved is so deeply rooted. 2008 subprime crisis. That's such a deeply rooted problem. So you need a monumental solution for that. I would think that user data ownership is a problem that is so deeply rooted in Web 2 that is in a similar scale. So you kind of warrant a very big effort to solve that. It's not a trivial problem. It kind of applies to everyone.
That's a really interesting thing.
I was just gonna add, looking a step ahead, once that data goes from your private space to next, okay, now I'm gonna monetize it. What does that look like? I see a lot of clients, entrepreneurs, builders trying to say, how can I monetize my data or do that for others on a decentralized marketplace? And that's where I think maybe it's not complementary, but it does create more challenges as to, okay, well now I'm a professor. I gave you my life's work and to train an LLM to be an advisor, and I get paid for each time someone uses that advisor, and it could be in tokens. Well, what if they start to modify that work? Ownership gets more complicated. I think that's some of the challenges I'm interested in. Hopefully we'll try to solve some of those problems, because who's gonna own it? Are there multiple contributors? How do we track that? What if it's infringed upon? How do we take that off a digital ledger that is not easily, changed? Those are some things I'm interested to see how we go, because that'll be some of the scalability problems I foresee that are not too far or already here.
Anybody have any input on what you just said?
Well, I don't know if I can contribute to too much of the conversation here, but I totally agree on, for example, what AI can do for Web3, which is, with the agents, it will definitely make the usability of blockchain technology more adoptable to the users because, I'm still learning blockchain, but I have exposures to it for I guess since college for 2 years ish now. That is still a pretty complicated thing for me to understand. And if you think of setting up all those crypto wallets and etc. and then put it in an actual use case, it would just be too much for a normal user to understand. Given that there are too many like crypto, math, technology details. But I found pretty. But one thing is for sure today is that the wide public today is willing to embrace AI, even though it's not perfect. So it's like the acceptance is pretty high today. So like so the take is the public is willing to try something new, even though they don't understand how it works. So it's like a perfect use case for blockchain. And regarding what blockchain can do to AIs, I remember I talked to someone that was working on a startup and they were building something related to AI agencies. And then AI agents on, for example, your personal devices, it has a problem of accessing some data. And then sometimes you don't want, like from a security perspective, sometimes you don't want to expose some data to the agency. Sometimes, like you want more control. And I remember they were using some technologies in blockchain to solve that problem. I forgot the details, but it's something that a few of them mentioned as well, that blockchain has a unique solution for decentralized storage, compute, and stuff that can potentially make AI agent more like better or secure from a technical perspective, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are all good inputs. I do think that UX is probably also one of the big bottlenecks here, right? I mean, it's just inherently something that Web2 users are very accustomed to, right? With centralized entities. But anyways, I think moving on, right? I think we covered something very, very broad, but let's get a little more specific, right? Let's talk about actually, how decentralized AI is changing very specific sectors, such as gaming, such as identity, or even such as finance, right? And I think the question I really want to ask here is, do you think that they're changing those sectors for the better or for the worse? I think maybe Matt, you were talking about DeFi, right? In comparison, or sorry, DeFi. Right?
Yeah, DeFi, whatever you want to choose for it.
I thought it was
DeFi with AI. DeFi, yeah. For the better, for the worse, I think that's what it was. It's what it was going to end up being anyways. We already had the bots deployed on all these chains, so it's just making what's already out there a little bit smarter. So it was already going that way. I think what is interesting to me is actually going back to the UX. I've seen a few applications out there that have been blending, obviously Base just came out with their new super app, and they're integrating, text-based, and all of a sudden turning it into commands for AI to make trades on the blockchain. We're super excited about that. We think that is exactly where the DeFi ecosystems are all going to end up anyways, where you're just going to have a unified interface where your wallet's already there, you have connections to all the different apps in the ecosystem, and you just give the AI agent a command and it follows through and does whatever you want. Even if it's, as we get more and more complex with the trades, the AI agents will learn. And again, as I said in the beginning, it's going to be all about optimization. For some of the other industry sectors, I think like GameFi for NPCs, cool. We'll see when we get there. I think the problem is it all goes where the money is, and right now the money is in DeFi. But I would love to see more of the applications spread out and go to some of the other sectors and make some interesting games. I think DeFi can only take the world so far, but without other sectors to complement the DeFi space, you're just having money chasing money, and you need these other sectors to support it. PayFi is going to be very interesting as we start getting more of these industrial players, larger institutions, and Web 2 players into it, making it more legit. I think we're going to see a lot more innovation across all these sectors.
Yeah, I want to echo a little bit about the gaming industry because I'm not sure how many gamers in this room, but I am one gamer, so I really very exciting about create AI agents, or we can call it NPC in games. So those NPCs can interact with other players without any scripts. We can create context. We can create I will say assets in the Web3 context. So those assets can be tradables, and also I can really have the fully ownership of all the assets I create in the games. I think it will create a new types of economy in these games. I'm very excited about that part. And also, I also know a lot of companies right now are applying decentralized ID systems, identify systems in the companies. From their perspective, I think they can really lower their the compliance pressure from the government, because in that case, users will control the data, the ID data. Users can give the necessary information upon the request from the companies. So that can really lower, as I mentioned, the pressure from the compliance perspective, and also can increase the trustworthiness of the companies, and we can lower the risks of this data breach from the perspective of organizations.
Yeah, Brett, I was actually just gonna ask you, actually I have very little experience in the legality of things, right? So I was wondering, how has decentralized AI really impacted the legal sector of compliance, of regulations, and
Yeah, so I'll try and piggyback off what you just said and answer your question as well. So I think it's better for identity, and that means different things to me. So I think the ability to verify who this person is, their identity in a compliant, safe manner, I feel optimistic about that. That's why I think it's better. I'm optimistic about finance, but I think it's going to take longer than we would like it to, because there is more regulations with finance, for better or worse. And we're getting more data privacy laws that are consumer friendly to your identity, but it starts in Europe most of the time, and then the US and California tend to be leaders, New York, in adopting some of those laws. So the GDPR, that's the big EU data regime that protects consumers, the right to be forgotten, delete your data, get access rights. California followed that with its own California Consumer Privacy Act and then amended it later on. So I think the identity I'm optimistic about, because compliance for KYC, know your customer, and anti-money laundering, that's the other part of the identity, is that is real use cases I see now. I see when there's hacks, there's companies like OnChain who are out there, they can trace the hacks back to who it is, find them, they work with the SEC, the DOJ, all these government departments. That's a real use case, and if the government supports it because it's benefiting them, it's gonna have a better chance, I think, to succeed faster. And finance, we'll see as more banks are getting on board with it, which I think I've seen a lot of progress recently. I noticed Anchorage Digital is doing some big stuff in light of the new laws that just passed in the last week with the Genius Act for stable coins, and then as well as the Clarity Act is going to apply to all of Web3. So I'm not saying a platform where you can have agents won't happen and can make trades. I just have seen, I've been in crypto since 2016. You've seen the ebbs and flows. I think it's just going to take longer. But maybe I'm wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, and I'd love to hear more to say that I am wrong.
So my thought is that AI as a general technology is going to make all sectors more productive, but it does create a new type of attacks. That is, for example, we already start to see this fake image, fake videos on YouTube. It's gonna make like KYC, those like a detection of bots much harder. And so that's just like the nature of things, like the internet, blockchain, and now AI. It's exactly the same path. Every of this technology make us more productive, but create a new arm race between a new type of attack and defense games. So I think that's just like the natural of like new technology, and we're gonna see new kinds of attacks. Unfortunately, there will be victims, and I think that you can roughly categorize the part that is, people need to watch out.
Yeah, and just to respond, I mean, that's why I think the compliance, the defense is going to be the things that push us forward. So identity, KYC, AML, security, those things, like I just see being more of a priority because that's going to be infrastructural to building this in a way that's actually going to like work and people trust.
Totally. I actually have an open question I want to ask, because my understanding is that decentralization is globalization, right? Like decentralization is sort of like a remove the country border. And it's not clear which jurisdiction things fall under. It's almost like this vacuum. We're on the open sea running all this. That's why there are so many scams, right? Because it's almost like we need to kind of establish like a new global order to really regulate this, and then instead of just like one jurisdiction. I'm not sure how you think about it.
Well, I'm not sure how the governments of different countries think about it. I imagine there would be a lot of compromise that won't happen. But I do, and I think that's why innately Web3 has always been a little political, because it is borderless. And that's why I think this is where I come back to AI is, can we have reliable AI agents that police and enforce things on chain? Like reliable. That I think that countries can agree upon, some kind of standard, because we have commercial systems that are global. There's different treaties, different things agreed upon by countries. I think that's going to come for AI too on the chain. And that's where I think it'll be the way it's borderless, because at the end of the day, like whose chain is it? If it's the government's chain, like my government, the US, or it's Korea, or it's Japan, or it's somewhere in Europe, like it's not gonna be all the countries. So the way to be borderless is to agree upon some standard.
Yeah, totally.
I think it was like 2-3 months ago now, there was a pretty well-known North Korean hack that drained, God, I can't remember what the app was, but it was like a couple $100 million that got drained, and everyone could actually see all the transactions happening, and everyone could see that Thorchain was the one that was actually moving the TVL across these different chains. So I don't think the issue of where everything is and where it's going, I don't think that's necessarily as big of an issue, because at the end of the day, if you're an institution, there's going to be KYC. I think the U.S. has also been, so I know Tom Emmer, he's a rep from Minnesota, where I'm originally from, and he's been a big advocate of crypto in the U.S. And at one part, it was a little bit of a political issue to discuss crypto laws, but at the same time, it was also trying to analyze and see where other parts of the world were going to come down for the crypto laws and see what was important, what was working and what was not working. And I think the US learned quite a bit from MiCA, where we saw that there was a lot of stagnation of innovation and quite a few projects moved from the European Union to the US to continue building. And I think the Clarity and Genius Acts were a part of that, where we saw what was actually happening and where things that were absolutely necessary and what were maybe stifling some of the innovation.
Yeah, and I'm excited about those acts. I think it does give a framework that we just haven't had ever. I mean, we just been relying on laws from the 1930s that have been guiding or not guiding crypto companies, and the SEC was just enforcing in a basically regulation by enforcement manner. And now it's, okay, now we're gonna work with you. My colleague actually just interviewed Hester Pierce, Crypto Mom, and was asking her about some of these questions on his podcast. And it's like, I don't think it's perfect, but it's way better than where we were, and it should be better than MiCA. Things I saw with I'm still going through the Genius Act and some of the things that it's gonna do, but like you can't offer yield on the stable coins. There's things like that are not maybe the best, but like if we go from a 1 out of 10 to like a 6 out of 10 in terms of how we can actually operate and push forward innovation, it's a step forward, right?
Actually, I think, following up on that question, with these acts passed, what do you guys actually think are, promising sectors, or sorry, promising, I guess, subsectors under, AI and Web3 that are, going to perform well in the next, maybe, or at least for the rest of the cycle and maybe even the next cycle, right? And I know, DeFi AI is definitely one of them. That was the big focus, right? So what are some others, and also which use cases or which subsectors do you guys think are just, purely hype and speculation, right, that are actually pointless?
All right, I'll take the crack at it. So yes, DeFi, I've said that twice. I can't use that a third time, 3 strikes. But I think we are still in, I'm gonna move over to PayFi. It's kind of cheating, but a little more broader, but I think we're gonna see a mass proliferation of stablecoins as these banks that already have legal ability to create currency for these stablecoins. They're gonna easily get the permits to be able to do it under the Genius Act. We're gonna see a mass proliferation of those, and I think AI is going to play a big factor in that in terms of treasury management for a lot of these companies. As far as hype, I think decentralized AI, as we were talking about compute, I think that is really overblown. I think a lot of people are just going to cheat and use centralized AI on blockchain, which is fine. And you see the price of using centralized AI agents go down with DeepSeek's pennies on the million tokens. It's super, super cheap. So why go for something that's more expensive and experimental if you're not really concerned that much about the data? Cheap and fast, that's what matters to most people. So I think the decentralized AI is overhyped, and I think the GameFi space is a little overhyped for the AI. NPCs are cool. Is it going to change the entire GameFi space? I don't really think so.
I'll add to the treasury management. I think a real thing that's going to happen is the AI-powered DAOs. So to really push forward their governance, their treasury management using AI, I think that will help DAOs get more traction. It's already being done. I think we'll continue to push that forward. So that made me think of that when you said how AI is going to help just manage treasuries across different businesses for people. I see it in a lot of state treasurers are interested in treasury management using stable coins. There's a lot of conversation across different states, so that's exciting. I have one that is both real and probably hype. It's real estate, whether it's commercial or residential. I would say the hype part of that is fractionalized ownership. I've seen a number of projects try to do that, and they just end up dying because it's so hard to do and it's expensive. It's an archaic industry that is ripe for disruption. But I would love to see a Web3 with AI solution that does it. There's Web2 solutions like Arrive with Jeff Bezos, that's fractionalizing ownerships, but the compliance burden and the access to it it's high. The real part of real estate, I think, is smart contracts, executing managing properties, executing leases in seamless ways, lending. Those things I think will be really useful use cases with AI on chain, because then everyone can see what's happening, you can automate the transactions, and I think we're gonna see more of that over time. And maybe it'll start with the private side where an investor owns a bunch of properties, and then the banks will come on board because they're like, well, wait, we can lend money on this and do it in a much more seamless, less transactional costs and energy time suck. So, curious if others have seen other things, but those are some of the things that came to mind.
To be honest, this is a pretty dangerous topic, I feel like.
That's the reason why
I only speak for myself. So for Web3, honestly, I don't have too many knowledge about, but just talking on a pretty high level about AI or application of AI into Web3, I guess it's also applicable. Is that one thing I really don't like for AI today is the AI robots that actual physical robots, like Optimus kind of thing, that do some chores and stuff for human beings. At least I think it's a pretty useless thing for now. And also the business model is not sustainable in short time because it's likely going to be expensive. And then I don't know if there's that many users want to put an actual robot at home and how much it's gonna help. The idea of this AI with a physical body, I feel like it can be pretty useful in maybe specific use case, but for like general public, it's not. And in terms of like a high level of what AI would help is that I think like just for me, right? I think one thing for sure is that if the application is trying to use AI to do automation, it's going to be pretty useful. But if the motivation is trying to like completely replace human or completely like like get rid of the human responsibility part, it's probably not going there in anytime soon because I'm saying anytime soon, right? Because I think it's at the end of the day, it's like Web3. To be honest, it's the development of Web3. It's kind of also a political problem, it's not only a technical problem. And for AI as well, it's a problem of does the society accept it, and what role should it play in the society? That kind of problem. So until like people are educated to accept those concepts, it's and if you are trying to like do something pretty crazy, probably it's not going to have much use case, especially if you're just trying to like push an idea that sounds very fancy, but it's not actually useful. Even though we see like hot money going in, but I feel like probably if you feel a long time later, it's going to die.
Yeah, I'm gonna add a little bit of my thoughts. So because I have building like many Web2 companies for several years, I already get used to working with paying customers and AR and MR. So it was actually a little culture shock. I go to Web3 and see there's so many people building infrastructures with no like clear defined application. But later I realized, okay, I think most of the infrastructure implicitly assume DeFi is the application. So, it's very common, you deploy the chain, then start to deploy DEX, Bridge, Oracle, then it's a running chain with TVL. So that's almost like an answer to the question, who needs this chain, right? But my fundamental thought is that infrastructure should serve applications, and any infrastructure without a clearly defined application, without like a clearly benefit to the end user, is a hype. So therefore, like what we think is a valuable sector for AI plus Web3, deeply rooted in this assumption. I would say like right now I'm pretty excited about like two different areas. One is that AI that just help with DeFi, because DeFi is a proven, tested application in blockchain, and it has so many requirements like a better DEX, the trading bot, compliance. There are so many places you can apply AI. So I think those things I believe it's not only a solid product market fit, but also something with great growth potential in this cycle. And also, like I said, there are many of these problems can actually be solved by centralized AI. But there are also certain problems here that needs decentralized trust, like a custody trading bot or like a border neutral compliance. So there are some problems here that due to the kind of social structure behind them, it actually can favor decentralized solution. So that's like one sector we are pretty excited about, want to bet on. The other one is a little long term, which is, like I said earlier, in the Web2 world, in the Web2 AI world, there are some fundamental problems that can be mitigated using Web3 technology, like user data ownership or something like that. So those are also concrete pain points. With that said, I don't know about the timeline, because now the Web2 AI is developing super rapidly within itself. So the AI in Web2 will be totally different 2 years from now. So it's still kind of too early to see exactly how Web3 will be applied to there. So it could be like take a longer term.
So I just wanted to say one more thing, is that we've really kind of been focusing on a couple of major sectors, and I think that does AI a little bit of injustice, in that AI can be a lot of different things. Just an example, and shameless plug for Zeta Chain. One of the projects that's on Zeta Chain it's called Pitch Lucy, and all it is just an adversarial AI agent that is a portfolio manager for tokens. So as you, the user, you can actually go up to it, pitch it a token, say, this is why I think this token is gonna go to the moon, and it's gonna give you a response. It's gonna either give you some sassy no, saying, you don't know fundamentals of tokens, or it'll say, you know what, you're right, and we're gonna add this to our portfolio, see how it does, and here's a jackpot reward. So that's just one example. Another example, some of you guys might laugh, but I hope I say it right. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with bots. Okay, it's like, predictions and making sure that, or, like fortune telling. And the part where crypto meets AI is AI can be your fortune teller, and you're not stuck with just having a traditional like Web 2 currency. You can use crypto no matter where you are in the world. So it makes accessing some of these games or some of these applications universal, which is something that I think we do forget about with Web 2, is that you still need the currency. But with crypto, it can be anywhere.
Yeah, so I really like these hype crashes because A.ai is also a decentralized exchange. So I think every project or even every token with the AI in it is kind of a hype right now, because every day I saw like hundreds, even thousands AI projects listed on exchange, but I think 90 or maybe 99% of them without any foundations, without team, without user case whatsoever. So that's kind of lead to my next point, is how to use AI or maybe in Web3 or in Web2 to do the like smart contract auditings. We can use AI to detect all the transaction anomalies, like code anomalies, whether or not do we have some insiders for that project. And also because right now we have the large language models, we can really understand the human language, because for Web3 projects, a lot of times about narratives, a lot of the discussion in the Telegram groups, on Twitters, on WeChat groups, we can do the social listenings and use AI to filter all those AI projects and really help all the users, traders to do the decision making.
I think at the end of the day, what you said is correct. It's really about deciphering the signal from all of the noise that's in Web3, right? But actually, with that, I think that actually concludes our panel, because we don't have time for the last question. But anyways, it was a pleasure talking to you guys. Thanks for joining us, and yeah, that's it. Let's give them a round of applause.